I have exciting news for you. From the week of December 5th until the 15th, you will have the opportunity to win an all access lifetime membership pass to the personal development school to give yourself the gift of healthy relationships this holiday season. We will be selecting 5 lucky winners to receive special prizes. And all you need to do is to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, like this video, and then click the link in the description and register your email in order to be entered to win. There are also bonus points for those who comment below on how a lifetime membership to our school could really benefit them or impact their lives. So make sure you check your email on December 16th to see if you win. Again, we'll have 5 winners that get all sorts of different access and prizes to PDS. And if you don't hear back from us, please don't worry. Everyone who enters will also still receive a small gift from myself and the Personal Development School as a thank you for being a valuable member of the PDS community. And all of the details are listed in the description of this video below. Best of luck. So, if you hang out around this channel quite frequently, you know what a big deal our attachment style is in terms of the capacity for our relationships to work. Like, your attachment style has a massive impact on the way that you give and receive love, on the way you communicate, what your needs are, your expectations are, what fears and core wounds we naturally bring into relationships. Like, there is a massive, massive impact. So, I also get many questions about how to identify if one of our loved ones is a specific attachment style, and I get it for all different types of attachment styles as a whole. And in this video, I want to take you through 8 major signs your partner or the person you're dating might be a dismissive avoidant. But I want to be really clear about this. This can also be 8 major signs that your good friend is a dismissive avoidant, that you're a parent, that one of your children, that somebody in your life is a dismissive avoidant. And you can sort of see into some of these signs. And I find these 8 to be the really, really big ones that tend to have a massive impact. So, number one of the biggest things you'll see when you start paying really close attention is dismissive avoidance when you first meet them are generally very intellectually available, but not necessarily emotionally available. And even early in the dating stage, when everybody's on their best behavior and the masks are still on as a general rule, what you'll often find is that the DA can be very connecting and quite charismatic, but it tends to really sit around the intellectual area. They can be like somewhat physically affectionate, things like that, but we're generally going to see still a lack of full emotional availability. You may even hear dismissive avoidance not use terms like feel. They'll often use language like think, I think this, I believe this, rather than, oh, I feel this about this thing that happened to me today. And if you pay close attention, you'll see there's just generally a lack of talking about the way circumstances make them feel, what they experience, feelings in general. And I know some people will say, oh, like this has to do with cognitive functions from an MBTI perspective. But there really is a lot more to it than just that. And although there can be sort of intersects between, the 16 personalities and attachment styles, dismissive avoidants very congruently do not love to talk about their feelings. So really cool sort of first point to pay attention to. Point number 2, dismissive avoidants tend to avoid themselves to a certain degree, and it makes their bandwidth sort of smaller. So they generally tend to struggle with like a big emotional bandwidth in the first place. And what we'll often see in relationships is that they kind of like avoid themselves and their emotions, and it makes them hard to get to know at times. So you may find yourself, especially in those early stages, um, really sort of looking into who is this person? What are their feelings about the relationship? What do they want? What are they really looking for? What lights them up? What affects them and upsets them or triggers them? And you may find that those like deep insights into a person, like who they really are at their core, it's hard to sort of like pull those things out of a dismissive avoidant. And you'll feel some of the wall and the guard up early on, especially around those more personal parts of that individual. And so you may find, as number 2, they can just be really difficult to get to know. And you have to be patient and consistent and ask lots of questions. And over time, sort of information that's more personal will start to trickle out. Number 3, they tend to pull away after being vulnerable. And this happens in all relationships. This can happen with friendships, family members, romantic partners, where, especially if they're not doing the work on themselves or things of that nature, they may be individuals who do eventually share. and some of this, more personal stuff might come out, and then they sort of withdraw. And generally, for a lot of relationships romantically, I'll see like a 3-day turnaround period until the person starts to get back to normal. It really seems to be around 3 or 4 days. Of course, there's many features that affect that. How long you've been in a relationship? Is the person doing work on themselves? Do they know about attachment styles? Is it a family member versus a romantic partner? But often in romantic partnerships, I'll see there's this sort of, opening up, feeling that shame hangover, being really vulnerable, and then pulling away for 3 or 4 days and then recovering and sort of returning back in. Number 4, they may be afraid to commit to future plans. And I don't mean like the plans on the weekend, although that can come up too. But I really mean, long-term plans, long-term thinking, especially as you're progressing through the different stages of a relationship and the relationship's getting more serious. You may find that romantically, at least, somebody does not really want to commit to long-term future plans. Again, this changes as somebody becomes more securely attached. But if they're not working on themselves, you'll even see things like ambiguous, kind of open-ended answers to things. So let's say you're like, oh, when would you want to get married? And the person might say something like, um, you know, I like to think about those things later on, or just ways of sort of like deflecting. And really, it's because that person isn't thinking about those things themselves the vast majority of the time. So they may give this really ambiguous kind of answer. And if you're watching this video for a friend, a family member, you may see that their version of this is more along the lines of, when they talk about their future, when they, like, let's say it's your family member, you're wondering if your brother is dismissive avoidant. You might see, for example, that in that person's history, in your brother's history, they may tend to deflect future plans that are around big commitments, even big commitments in other areas of life, big financial commitments, big workplace commitments, anything that's got like too much vulnerability and longevity and like that commitment oriented feature to it. You may see just a deflecting, a moving away, a dodging of the question, things of that nature. Number 5, they may be dismissive. You may see, and part of the dismissiveness is minimizing attachment needs. So they may, when it comes to being really present, kind of avoid it, kind of pull away, not want to stay too present too long. They may withdraw fairly often. And this can be in person or in between. They can be dismissive of text messages, not really show up, not really answer. They can be dismissive in a whole variety of different areas. And really, it's that they've learned that they, based on the way that things have been modeled to them, that they're responsible for themselves and everybody's responsible for themselves. And there's no real in between. And that tends to be a lot of the programming for how sort of that lens functions that they see the world through, which obviously plays a massive role. Number 6, they will tend to take a longer time to warm up in person, like when they first meet somebody, often with strangers, things of that nature. Again, they can be intellectually charming, but they may not be emotionally available when they first meet somebody. And there is a big difference when you start paying close attention. And you may also see that after a conflict, they really take a long time to warm back up. And generally, with other attachment styles, those other attachment styles are warming back up faster, are more emotionally available after a conflict sooner, whereas DAs may take hours, even a couple days, and depending on how far they are down that dismissive avoidant continuum, even a week or a couple weeks at times. Number 7, you may find that they have difficulty with your strong emotions. I've often seen dismissive avoidants kind of go into freeze mode because I worked with a lot of couples for quite some time. And if one partner was crying or expressing too vulnerably, even though a DA might be, really loving that partner, they may not handle it the best in real time and kind of withdraw. And what I would often do when I would work with couples is I would do 2-hour sessions, and I would have half an hour with one person, half an hour with the other, and like sort of pull out the things that were going on and then really get them to communicate those things to each other and work through things together. And I would often, when working exclusively with a DA in that half-hour session as part of a couple, I would often hear a dismissive avoidant say things to me like, I want to be there for my partner, but when they cry or they get really emotional, I just don't know what to do. I freeze. I don't know if they need space from me. I know I would need space. I'm not sure what to do with around them. I don't know how I'm supposed to express connection. And so there can generally be just this confusion and sometimes sort of freeze mode for this individual, again, because they haven't really had a lot of this modeling growing up. And number 8. Oh, and by the way, before I tell you number 8, if you are working on a relationship with a dismissive avoidant and you want a really good course you can check out for free for 7 days, you can check out the How to Repair Any Relationship course. And it really does a deep, deep dive into figuring out what kind of relationship this belongs as. Like, is this gonna work long term? It helps you define the sort of prerequisites, the stages of closeness you need, and then also how to work through pain points, challenges, get off the rocks in your relationships, and really be able to move ahead. So number 8, and I'll put the link down below for that, by the way, so you can check it out for free for 7 days. It actually gives you access to the whole platform, so you can check out any course. Number 8 is you may find this person has a history of very short or non-committal relationships. So you may find that they are always in situationships, never really fully committed. You may find that they're in their 40s, 50s, never really been engaged, married, and really never got too close to a serious long-term commitment. You may find that they, um, have a history of being alone for years and years at a time without even really dating. And that can be fearful avoidance as well. But we're generally seeing like this history in some form of or another of a lack of real commitment in relationships as a whole. And these are all things to pay attention to as you're starting to like understand somebody's attachment style and what some of their programming might be. So I hope this makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. And please share any questions you have in the comments down below. And I will see you in the next video. And please subscribe if you enjoyed this content.